It with Tara Bush.
If you or your loved one is facing cancer, only Sylvester will stand firmly by your side at every step, from diagnosis through survivorship, providing you and your family peace of mind and assisting with everything you need before, during, and after your stay with us. Sylvester Comprehensive Cancer Center is South Florida's only NCI-designated cancer center and specializes in treating the most complex cancer cases. Your first-class cancer care is just a flight away. Learn more at sylvester.org.
Attention HR managers and business leaders. Want to boost productivity, reduce absenteeism, and show your team that their well-being matters? The Lightroom now offers custom corporate memberships designed to enhance energy and mental clarity, reduce stress, and improve overall health, creating a healthier, more focused workforce. Invest in your team's well-being because a thriving team leads to a thriving business. Visit thelightroom.ky to learn more. It's a new era in wellness.
Hello and welcome to For the Health of It. I'll be interviewing Carola Scalari and we'll be talking about body image. She is a psychologist and a board-certified behavior analyst. Hello and welcome to For the Health of It, Carola.
Thank you so much for inviting me, and thank you so much for having a space that we can talk about important things.
Yeah, I mean, before we get into the show itself, because we're going to be talking about body image, and this is not a topic just for women. This is a topic for men as well. Can you explain what a board-certified behavior analyst is, just to break it down for our audience?
Yes, sure. It's pretty self-explanatory. We specialize in analyzing behavior, and the way we look at it is by the laws that rule behavior, and we always look at behavior in its context. So, for example, when you were saying body image issues don't only come up for women, they also come up for men, but we would look at them from different perspectives, taking into consideration social conditioning and other things. So a behavior analyst is basically someone that is a contextualist, is always looking at the environment and how the environment not only affects us, our behavior, internal and external, but also how we react and are conditioned by it.
Yeah, so in other words, context explains conduct.
Yes.
Okay. Can you explain about the body image now? A big part of body image is this internal dialogue that we have within ourselves. So if I talk, hey Tara, you're fat, you're ugly. How does this show up?
Well, it would be good to start by defining internal dialogue. So
Sure.
someone might not, because some people actually don't have that inner voice all the time, or some people have a really hard time identifying it. So it's the ongoing conversation that we're having with ourselves. It's like you said, the inner voice that we are the only ones that can hear, and it can be supportive, it can be neutral, or it can be critical.
Mm-hmm.
Neutral, for example, if it starts raining and I start thinking about water, and then I start thinking about, when was the last time I went to the Niagara Falls, or something related to what's happening outside my head. The thing about inner dialogue is that we have to be very observant if it becomes too critical, because that's when it becomes a harsh internal talk. And that's when the issues arise.
Yeah, I guess you can hear that I got a lot of harsh internal talk, but I'm more aware of it now and how bad, what the impact has been on me. So how does this impact, now that we've explained it, how does it impact our daily actions having that harsh? We're not talking about the for lack of a better word, but the natural, more normal, internal talk. But that's negative, you know, how does that hurt us?
Well, as a therapist, I always try to distance myself a little bit from using words as negative or positive, because I think everything that happens within our brains, if it finds it right or proper balance, is something that we need. For example, when people talk about anxiety and they're like, oh, it's so bad. And I'm like, no, we all have to a certain degree anxiety, and that's good. It keeps us alive. It does other things. So our brains are a beautiful machine that learned through the environment that they were exposed to how to take care of you. And some of that things, when it comes to the critical side, I always say, take it from a curiosity perspective. Don't be harsh on the harsh internal talk. So for example, two things I always ask about this harsh internal talk is frequency and duration. Mm-hmm. Because if you are rehashing something, a conversation that you had yesterday, and you're reviewing how your partner talked to you or how you talk back at them, and you're doing that process of rethinking it, and in that process you're like, oh my God, I was super harsh, I was super negative, I don't see it as a negative thing. But then if the frequency, it's day after day after day, or something that happened months ago, then that's when an issue arises. Duration, the same. If you spend the whole day rehashing what happened yesterday and that's it, what I always say is like, is that efficient? What are you doing with it? Mm-hmm. So the third part would be taking action on it. So I think when it comes to assessing what's happening inside our brains, I would say, okay, take a look at it, observe it. And that's what behavior analysts would do. And people sometimes say, you're too attached to data or information. I'm like, no, because that is actually how I figure out how my brain works. Because sometimes your inner critic is going to be maybe a little bit higher because of your surroundings. And that's something that we will talk later today, but it's like, be very mindful of who you surround yourself with. And going back to what you were saying about how we judge ourselves, one of the things that we need to understand is it's not yours. It didn't come from you. And it's important to have the tools to distance yourself from it and understand, okay, what of it do I feel like it's mine, and what was actually passed on or shaped for me.
So you're saying that we might pick up some of this internal self-talk from our parents, or our teachers, or the people around us, our friends.
Yes, exactly. All behavior is shaped. Behavior is shaped either by things that happen to us in any way. So most kids learn by contingencies. Don't touch that, you're going to hurt yourself, or you're going to burn your hand, and we go and touch it. And then we have behavior that is ruled by, it's governed by rules. So when it comes to how it's shaping our inner voice, you have a couple of things. The most important and most present is your parents, your family. And there are two ways. That's why I tell parents, be careful what you say in front of your kids, or teachers, be careful what you say in front of your students, because kids are always listening, and they don't have the same capacity as us as adults to process what they're hearing. So directly, a parent can say, you're so smart, you're so difficult. They can be a little bit more indirect in the sense of, do you think you need to have seconds? Have you gained weight? And then we start labeling those comments that we're getting from them. And also indirectly, because even the other day I was talking to a friend, and we were talking about body image and how things that we didn't pay much attention still are in our memories. Like, for example, I was born in the 80s. So I remember my parents talking about shakes. It was a very specific brand back then, and you would skip a meal in order to lose weight. And I remember my mom trying to lose weight all the time. She was always on a diet. She was always monitoring her food intake, or things like, oh, I have a wedding next month, I have to lose weight. And those are things that we listen and we perceive them or take them as kids. So it doesn't make a lot of sense. That's why when you have to figure out where are those things coming from, it's understanding that you received them as a child and now you're looking at them as an adult. So there are two different kind of works that you have to do. Your society, your teachers, like you were saying, as we grow up, they all have an impact. When, for example, this is another thing that I tell about, I'm from Argentina, and Argentina has very high beauty standards. And when I was a teenager, there was a show on TV that the name of the show was 90, 60, 90. And we all knew that those were considered the perfect body measurements. Those were the models. And I remember measuring myself and not feeling like I was fitting in, or I wasn't beautiful, or guys, in my case, boys were not going to pay attention to me because my friends are closer to that perfection. So the standards that the society puts for us, when you were saying men and women, gender roles, it is different. Because for women, beauty goes with being thin in most countries, and not aging. And for men, for example, it's more about body strength, because it's also related or correlated with other things that are social conditionings, like being a provider, the one that keeps the house safe. So it is, when you start thinking about your inner voice, what I tell people is start writing things that you remember. Who said what? How did they say it to you? And going a little bit further into your adulthood, when we are more aware of our friendships and we choose them, I think, more wisely, is thinking about the people that surround you. If you have friends that are all the time criticizing themselves, I'm talking even about what they're saying to you, but you have friends being like, oh no, I have to lose weight. No, my God, I gained weight. Oh my God, I just ate so much. And you look at them and you're like, okay, if you ate so much, I don't know what my eating right now qualifies as. People that are all the time concerned about aging or doing Botox, or now that we have this whole thing with Ozempic, and people are not researching things enough. People are just jumping into quick solutions. And I think it all goes back to accepting ourselves and working on our self-worth.
That comes to my next question here. What's the difference? Can you explain what self-value and self-esteem looks like? The difference?
Yes. They're related, but they're not the same.
Mm-hmm.
Self-esteem is more about how much you like yourself or you feel good about yourself, but it's based on external things like accomplishments or feedback that you get or your appearance, and how those fit into the social standards. So, for example, your self-esteem will fluctuate a lot, and it's kind of like based on all or nothing. So it's like always you have two concepts: I'm fat or I'm thin, I'm ugly or I'm beautiful, I'm good or I'm bad. And self-value is more about a deeper belief that you are inherently worthy just by existing. It's not based on external factors. It's more based on values, and values are internal, and they define us in so many different ways. So, for example, when you have low self-esteem is when you start seeing anxiety, depression, suicide. When you have high self-esteem, you see more narcissistic traits in personality, that they feel special, they have to be treated special. So self-value is the one that I recommend people to evaluate and assess, not self-esteem, which is something that I think there's a talk on TED that Christine Neff gave. She's kind of like the queen of self-compassion, and she was explaining the difference between self-esteem and self-value or self-worth, and how as kids we were presented with this comparison all the time. So that's why we grow up comparing ourselves to others. And what I tell my clients, especially when they come with something that they've seen on TikTok or they've heard someone else, I'm like, this is your story. No one else's. We don't have, as therapists, a book that says, okay, tell me what happened to you, and on the trauma scale, you're at a 7. No. What happened to you in a very specific time, and you have to assess it, and you have to realize how much it affected you. Because, for example, I don't know, you and I, let's say we're sisters and we share the same parents and we share the same family and the same context. We were both born in Buenos Aires, Argentina. But then I'm going to assume you're like my brother's age, so you're younger than me. When I was born, Argentina was going through a dictatorship. My parents lost friends. People were disappearing. A lot of things were happening worldwide also that affected my parents and that affected how they raised me. And maybe with you, 4 years or 3 years later, it was completely different. So you might have an experience about our dad that I don't have. Or maybe because I was more into sports, I didn't get so many comments about how much I was eating. And you did because you were more into books or, I don't know, different interests. So when you assess what happened to you, and we go back to the context, always understand that behavior has a reason. I'm not justifying the behavior, but I am always trying to understand it. And behavior analysis kind of like does that all the time. We go like, okay, what happened to you? Tell me. No, because my mom and my dad, okay, we take notes, we assess how it affected you, and then we go into, again, the action part. How do we start changing that? Because we can't go back in time. And rehashing the past all the time, that will bring up other mental health issues.
The external behavior, right, is a correlation between that dialogue. Does that also show up in the way they interact with other people?
Yes, definitely. So, for example, I'm going to try to be super specific so we have time to go to reclaim your internal voice. When you have negative self-talk, that can show up in self-sabotage. I'm not good enough. You start avoiding things. I am a failure, giving up. I've heard this so many times in session, like why everyone leaves me. And then when we start looking at all of those relationships, sometimes it was like that inner voice saying, you're not good enough. They're going to leave you. You're not good enough. So we start pulling away even before we actually notice that we're doing it. For example, social expectations. When you say, I must be productive, and you push yourself to a point that you burn out. When I should not take up space, so you're not good at setting boundaries, and then this affects how you relate with people at work, in your personal relationships. It's all over. The thing is, thinking how you think is how you perceive the world, and how that is going to come out is as your behavior, the one that people can see. That's why we have to be very good at explaining sometimes our stories to other people so they can understand, oh, okay, that's why you behave in this way. Yes, and I'm trying to change some things here and there, but they don't have access to that information unless you're the therapist and they choose to share with you.
So how can we start transforming this negative dialogue, you know, to tame that inner voice and make it less harsh?
Again, coming from curiosity, let's try not to always think about the end goal right away, because that is going to affect the process, and we have to enjoy, even if it might be a little bit painful, we have to be a part of the process. So reclaiming your internal voice, first identify the source. Where is that coming from? A 2-year-old is not going to say to themselves, I'm not good enough, I'm too fat, or I should be taller, or my nose should be smaller. So try to figure out who told you that you should be perfect, thin, more productive, not lazy, etc. Then name the voice. I tell my clients to talk to their brains and put a name to their brains. So for example, when you name the voice, instead of saying I'm lazy, I'm fat, I'm ugly, reframe it. This is my father's voice talking to me. That's not mine. If you cannot identify, put some distance between it. This is not mine. I didn't tell myself this. And in a way, that's creating a little more space so you can start taking that step back and gaining more perspective. Then you challenge it and you reframe it. So, is that true? What evidence do I have? Because that's, again, something that we all do. We go from all to nothing in a second. I'm always doing this. I never follow through my goals. And I'm like, never? That's impossible. Always? No, come on, let's try to be more objective. Because one of the things that people do is they're super harsh on themselves, and then with others, they're very lenient. So I always say, try to talk to yourself the way you would talk to your best friend or someone in your family, like a sibling, someone that you really love, care for, and respect. And then develop a new internal narrative, more self-compassion, reframe those labels. Today, this new generations are all about labels. And like when they say, I'm lazy, or and they use words that for me sometimes don't make any sense, but I'm like, okay, what do you think about, what's the opposite of lazy? Productive. What do you think productive is? Well, someone that works a lot. Okay, what else? Because in order to be good at your job, you also need to have good mental and physical health. So resting is part of being productive. I have given myself permission, because I didn't allow myself before, to take a nap if I needed to. And sometimes I'm working, I stop, I take a little nap, what people will call a power nap, and then I wake up and I continue my day. Before, I wasn't able to do that because that would have been like considered unproductive or lazy. So develop that new internal narrative. Take notes, journal about it. Another thing from ACT, Acceptance and Commitment Therapy, is diffusion. I am noticing the thought that I am not good enough. Is completely different from saying I'm not good enough. So I am having the thought. I am not identifying myself with I am not good enough or I am lazy. Because that's the biggest thing lately. People identify with the labels. I'm depressive, or I am not good enough. I am fat. I make bad choices. And instead of saying, I behave in X way.
Would you let our audience know if there's anything else that I haven't asked you'd like to wrap up this interview?
I would say refrain selfish as self-respect, have healthy boundaries, and take the time to identify that which thoughts are learned and where they're coming from.
You've been listening to me interview Carola Scolari on the topic of body image. Thank you for listening to For the Health of It. We are moving you to the life you want.
There's nothing more important than your health, and seeking expert healthcare with physicians you can trust is what you deserve. UHealth, the University of Miami Health System, offers peace of mind to you and your family with a first-class experience. Our patient coordinators assist with everything you need before, during, and after your stay with us. As South Florida's only academic-based health system, UHealth offers cutting-edge treatment, compassionate care, and life-changing results just a flight away. Learn more at umiamihealth.org/international.
Attention HR managers and business leaders. Want to boost productivity, reduce absenteeism, and show your team that their well-being matters? The Lightroom now offers custom corporate memberships designed to enhance energy and mental clarity, reduce stress, and improve overall health, creating a healthier, more focused workforce. Invest in your team's well-being because a thriving team leads to a thriving business. Visit thelightroom.ky to learn more. It's a new era in wellness.
This is For the Health of It with Tara Bush. Brought to you by the Health Services Authority. Caring people, quality service. Visit hsa.ky.
For the Health of It with Tara Bush.
Brought to you by Healthcare Pharmacy, where they care about your health. 2 locations, Governor Square and Grand Harbor. Refill and transfer prescriptions online. Call 947-8900 or visit healthcarepharmacy.ky. Also brought to you by Cayman Medical Center, Cayman's most awarded private medical clinic.
And UHealth, International University of Miami.
World-class healthcare in the heart of Miami.
The Lightroom, your holistic sanctuary for physical and mental restoration, repair, and rejuvenation. The power that made the body heals the body. 38 Pasadora Place, Georgetown. Find us online at www.thelightroom.ky or call 938-HEAL.
For the Health of It with Tara Bush.
We are Radio Cayman.
Covering Cayman Brac, Little Cayman, and Grand Cayman.
One in